Well, I have three men to talk about again this week, but men from differing religious traditions and differing walks of life. And all of these, to some extent, have helped shape our modern life as American Christians. On Tuesday, July 28th, the Presbyterian Book of Common Worship honors Johann Sebastian Bach. What can I say about Bach that you do not already know? Well, a little biography. He was born in 1685 in Eisenach. His father and uncles were all professional musicians. When he was 9, his mother died, and then his father followed her a few months later. He lived in the home of his elder brother then, and he taught him music. I won't go into the long list of musical positions that Johann held during his lifetime. He served in a variety of cities as organist and choir master of churches. He held a royal appointment for a while. Sometimes he would move because he received a promotion. At least once, he was dismissed from a job. He could be demanding. If a singer wasn't performing up to snuff, Bach might insult them publicly. He once called a singer named Geiersbach, Zippelfagottist, roughly weenie bassoon player. That student went after him with a stick. When Bach served Lutheran churches, he composed religious works, but when he was serving Prince Leopold as court musician, most of his composition was secular. Leopold was a Calvinist, and he didn't use elaborate music in worship. Bach's last position was at St. Thomas Church in Leipzig, where he served for 27 years. Kathleen and I visited that church and saw the organ that he played when we were in Germany for the quincentenary of the Reformation. Bach had his fights with the Leipzig City Council, his employer, but he played, conducted, taught, and composed until his death on July 28, 1750. He never stopped learning. Throughout his life, his musical style changed and grew. He studied the works of other composers and incorporated their insights into his own work. Whether you sing one of his choral works, I fell in love with Psalm 130 by singing Bach's 131st cantata, Aus der Tiefe, or you listen to an organist play a fugue, or you allow yourself to be caught up in the St. Matthew Passion, you cannot help but admire both Bach's talent and his hard work. In addition, his sacred work demonstrates the depth of his own relationship with God. Bach was a devout Lutheran. In addition to using the text of Luther's German Bible for his work, he taught Luther's catechism to his students. I doubt that it is possible to grasp the fullness of Bach's contributions to Western music without appreciating his Lutheran faith, his own struggle to be a servant of God. Another servant of God we consider this week is someone I personally appreciate, William Penn, the founder of my home state of Pennsylvania. His day is Thursday, July 30th. Penn was the son of a prominent admiral, also named William, and Margaret Jasper, a wealthy Dutch woman from Rotterdam. Although Penn was born in London, he was raised in the country, which instilled in him a love of horticulture. He grew up during the time of Cromwell, and his family spent some time in exile in Ireland. They assisted in the restoration of the monarchy, for which Admiral Penn, William's father, was knighted. Young William struggled to find his way religiously as a young man. He was raised in Puritan Anglicanism and at college was exposed to rationalist thought. When a theologian at Oxford was dismissed from a deanery, Penn and other students stood up for him. He was dismissed from college, for which his father attacked him with a cane and drove him out of the house. William then went to Paris to study, and there he was influenced by a French Protestant, and he began to care less about strict dogma than to attend to a more emotional approach to relationship with God. When his father took ill, he was put in charge of his family's holdings in Ireland, where he started to attend Quaker meetings. That was against the law, so he was arrested. He publicly declared himself to be a Quaker, but he was released from jail because of his father's prominence. Quakers did not get on well in English society. They were strict egalitarians. They refused to show deference to nobility or to other social betters. They didn't tithe to the official church. They were pacifists. They believed that everyone could experience the presence of God and everyone could be influenced to speak on God's behalf without official church sanction. William Penn was in and out of jail for his writings and for his activity. The solution to everyone's problem presented itself when the king decided to pay off a large debt to Admiral Penn by giving William a charter for 45,000 square miles of land west of New Jersey and north of Maryland. Heavily wooded, it was called Sylvania, which means woods, but the king called it Pennsylvania in honor of the admiral. I won't go any farther into this story, except to say that the new colony was to be a refuge for all religious dissenters, but especially Quakers. Penn's writings were devoted to calling people to a simple Christianity. His best-known work is No Cross, No Crown, a phrase which means a lot to me. In a United Methodist church in Shermansdale, Pennsylvania, is a stained glass window that shows the cross of Jesus and the two crosses of the thieves on either side, up on the hill. And those words, no cross, no crown, above them. The window was given to the church by my great-grandparents. Anyway, Penn advocated for a union of the American colonies in the form that later became the United States. He also, in his writing, urged the creation of a European assembly, an assembly of all the nations of Europe. So he's credited with being the first to foresee the European Union. Having returned to England to attend to family matters, he died there on July 30th, 1718. Now finally, on Friday, July 31st, we remember the Reverend Eugene Carson Blake, who was for 16 years the stated clerk of the General Assembly of the Presbyterian Church. Blake was born in St. Louis in 1906. He was educated at Princeton. He served as a teacher in Pakistan, and he was a pastor in various places in the United States. But he's best remembered for his leadership as stated clerk, and also then as president of the National Council of Churches and as General Secretary of the World Council of Churches. Blake took a strong stand against racist segregation. He helped Martin Luther King Jr. organize the March on Washington in 1963. In 1960, he preached a sermon at Grace Episcopal Cathedral in San Francisco that called for the creation of a united Protestantism in the United States. This was the beginning of the Consultation on Church Union, which was created to try to form a church truly Catholic, truly Reformed, truly evangelical. It's a vision I still hope to see realized someday. Blake died on July 31st, 1985. So much more could be said about this Lutheran, this Quaker, and this Presbyterian. In their way, each shaped the faith we live today.